Hey, Chelsea.
Are we doing an assignment? I'm not aware.
No, we're all just waiting to start.
Oh wait, my headphones. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for waiting. My meeting ran super duper long right before this class. So today we're going to be talking about dialogue. Before we get started, does anybody have any questions from last week? I haven't seen any scripts in Slack. You guys have any questions? No?
I didn't have any questions, but thank you for the recommendation for the killing. I did start watching that at one point, but I need to finish it.
Okay. So I think probably every class up until today, we've talked a little bit about dialogue and sort of what, today, sort of what creates dialogue or great dialogue. I think the most important thing to know is that to create great dialogue, the most important thing you need is subtext. Do I have any questions about that? I can go right into how to create subtext, but do I have any questions about what that means, how that works, what the word means, or anything like that? No?
I do. I think I understand what subtext means, but I don't, I guess, all the time understand why it's so important.
Okay. So usually, even in a different format, let's say it's not in a screenplay, subtext is sort of what's behind the words, right? So I can tell you, wow, you look wonderful today. And I can mean it. And the subtext can be that you don't look wonderful every other day, right? So it's not, I think a lot of times when people think about expressing screenwriting, they think of it as a, like a metaphor, but subtext is not a metaphor. It's not something that's meant to mean something else. It's what the words are not saying. And the subtext is always based on context, right? So that's how I would kind of think of like what the word is based off of, right? It's the relationship between the people in the conversation, or the relationship between the character and then the world that the character is in gives it some subtext, right? And then the subtext is telling us, based on that, this thing that you're saying has additional meaning. Does that make sense? So if the character is lying, or if a character is sort of deceiving you or meaning something else, or not being honest, that's not subtext. That is deceit or lying. The subtext is basically based off of the relationship that we have, based off of what's happening in the story. I'm going to give you this piece of dialogue, but ultimately, there's some additional meaning. There's some meaning behind what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. But what
Okay.
if like what you're understanding as a context and what maybe the audience or someone else is reading is a different context? Like what if they just have like a different different way they come to it, I guess.
So give me an example.
Okay, what if like one group of people think that okay, so there's like a story and whoever they give chocolate to is who they like, but what if one group of people think that giving chocolate to someone you like is a good thing versus other people may think it's a bad thing, but the subtext is still there, but people are understanding it differently or have a different like context or cultural understanding of it, of a certain action. Does
So
that make
then,
sense?
yes, so then that's more intention. So it's more the character's intention. So let's say, you know, I was the president of this country and I was handing out rations of chocolate. And the country I came from, chocolate was like a sort of delicacy. And so this new country I'm in, they find it very offensive that I would hand out chocolate because, well, it's a delicacy, it's hard to come by, and that would mean that I'm wasteful or something like that, right? So let's say I'm out and I'm meeting and greeting the people, you know, kissing babies and shaking hands and stuff like that. And I mentioned to one of my supporters, I'm handing out chocolate next week, you know, sort of spread the word. The context is that, whoa, that, you know, you're being wasteful and it's very offensive to my people that you would do that. That's the context, right? But let's say I'm meeting with my advisor and he's from the same community, the same country that we offended. He comes into my office and he's saying something like, I'm, you know, very much in support of what you're doing. Thank you for helping everyone and, you know, taking over and the coup where you murdered this other person or whatever. Can I get you something, right? And so the subtext is like the context of this, you know, sort of divide is happening. The can I get you something? There can be more subtext in that, right? So the can I get you something? The subtext is that I'm like being overly submissive or overly helpful when that's not really the nature of our relationship. You've been my advisor for however many years. And if you've never gotten me coffee, you know, you're over the military, you're almost my equal. And so if you're saying, can I get you something, sir? Can I help you with this, sir? Can I fluff your pillow, sir? Can I get you a cocktail, sir? Or whatever. The subtext is that I'm sort of overdoing it because of your like political stance of giving out chocolate. And now that you're not going to listen to me or what my people have to say, I'm going to play this role. That's the subtext. Now, in someone else's mouth, you know, those same lines are going to have different subtext. It means subtext at all. They'll just mean what they mean. But because it's coming from this guy with this history and this relationship, then he's saying something very different by using those words.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
A little bit, but I think I'll figure it out as we go on.
Okay, well, we're gonna go over a few examples, but the most important thing to know is that subtext changes based on whose mouth you put it in, and it's mostly based off of a relationship with someone. So if I am, a mother, and I have a daughter, and my husband has been injured or something like that. Then the nursery rhyme that he used to sing all the time, I may sing, and it has the meaning of that relationship, of me sort of taking over as that role. That's the subtext, even though it's the same nursery rhyme he used to say. If that makes sense. Okay. So here's what you need to know about subtext. First thing is that humans rarely say what they mean. Very rarely, almost never. Almost never. Human beings say exactly what they mean. And it doesn't mean that human beings are deceitful or are always liars. It's that we learn a lot of communication tools growing up in our society, right? So sometimes you go to another country and their way of communicating is like extreme on the nose, I'm very honest, right? And then you come to America and we use different tactics to say what it is that we have to say. And the manipulation isn't necessarily bad or evil. It's just, it's how we learn to communicate. It's that every communication is a tool to get at something, right? So you have a teacher who's teaching you something and their tool is to educate. So they usually use language that isn't something that you use when you run into someone at the grocery store or something like that, right? Dialogue is first meant to convey tactic, then intent. Okay, so the difference between tactic and intent is tactic is the tool you use, and intent is what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And they have to come in a certain order. So dialogue first, before you get to intention of what it is that you wanted to communicate, you get to how you're doing that. I think that's it's really important to understand, but they're so similar, it's hard to sometimes know how to plant one before the other. So, for example, let's say that I'm a character, my name is Hannah, and I have a son, and his name is Carrion. Hannah and her son Carrion. And I want to keep Carrion from running into the street because he's my son and I love him. So the tactic I may use may be fear. I may tell him, a story about a evil monster who lurks underneath the road. So we're on top of the road, we drive up the road, we walk up the road. But there is a monster called Underground Monster who lives under the street. And when little kids run to the street without holding their parent's hand, it activates this monster and he goes very angry or something like that. So I may tell my kid this story with the intention to keep him out of the street, which is, technically a very loving thing, but the tactic I'm using is fear. So when you're writing your dialogue, the first thing you're thinking of is what is this person, what is the way that they are communicating, and then what are they trying to do in that order? Does that make sense? I know they're kind of similar, but the reason why they go in that order is because the tactic usually picks out the language. So the intent of something could have a million different words, right? I want to keep my kid out the street. I'm going to use a million different words to say. It could be anything. But the tactic of fear is how I choose exact words I'm going to use. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Okay. And then dialogue is written to reveal, not inform. So when we think of dialogue, because communication does give us information, a lot of times, primarily, we think of first, what is it that I want to say? Well, after you do your first draft and you say all the things you want to say, you do a pass. And this is going to happen probably after the class is over. So it's like really important, I feel like, to understand this. If it's not sort of a natural talent of yours, is it's more about uncovering your character than it is about what it is that they're trying to convey. So, for example, if I am this mother, Hannah, and I have this child, Karen, and I want my kid to stay out of the street because it's dangerous. Well, I could just say, don't run to the street, it's dangerous. But we know that doesn't always work because children are curious. But the tactic I use reveals something about me as a character. It reveals the way I would go about things based off of like my own set of things, you know, in terms of like how I would feel like this person. So why did I choose fear? I could have told a very compelling story about, you know, a kid that got hit, which I think would also be scary, but maybe not so much. I could also, you know, tell the kid, listen, I love you very much. And all of these dangerous things happen in the middle of the street. And because grown-ups, you know, have their brains developed in a certain way, they are more organized to understand danger. And you're still figuring that out. That's why you have to listen to me, because it's my job to protect you or whatever. I could choose any of those things. But the thing I choose, the thing that I do choose, reveals who I am as a character. So perhaps, you know, I have my own background with, you know, it was taught to me this way, given fear. Or I, you know, don't trust that my child will listen to me. That's why I have to utilize fear. I feel like, you know, my words aren't very powerful. I'm not very confident in what I bring to my child's life, or I'm not very confident in my child's paternal grandparents. Whatever the reason is, the tactic you choose tells you something about that person. And you as a writer, the tactic that you choose for your character to use to speak in should reveal who they are. Is that clear, or does that feel a little convoluted?
I think it's clear. I think something that I am personally struggling with is figuring out how to create subtext in a pilot when you're still just meeting these people.
It's not easy. It's not easy. So the thing is that it's going to take time for your audience to get to know your characters. But you as a writer have to know them already. And so the tactics that you use based off of who you've decided that they are should be in play from the very, very beginning. Over the weekend, I'm in the process of writing something right now. And I spent a lot of time watching like pilots. And there are two pilots that are very, 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 very good. One of them is Fleabag, and what's interesting about Fleabag is, you have a character who breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to the screen. And usually when you have a character who talks directly to the screen, there's not a lot of that subtext that you have to explain, because it's a little bit of a cheat, because you get to say exactly what the character's thinking. However, in terms of their relationships to each other, it's very good to look at. And then the other one, are you guys familiar with the show called Normal People?
Yes.
It's some of the best subtext I've ever read, and it's helpful to have both the script and watch the show, so you can sort of see how one transitions to the other. For you, Alexis, because you have a comedy, I would venture more towards the Fleabag scenario, but in particular, when the main character is talking to her sister, it's some of the best instances of subtext, because the way that they communicate is so much. That's what I'm looking for.
I'm actually rewatching Fleabag right now.
Are you?
Super randomly. And I think that her interactions with Godmother are actually like, Godmother never says what Godmother
Ever. Never. And I've heard Jessica Williams say this with Phoebe, whatever her name is, when I saw them live once. And she said, like, their show is kind of trust fall with words. And I will never, ever forget that. Because you're sort of up there, it's live, and it's like, I'm going to try to be funny, and I don't know if the other person's going to pick up on that. What helps when there's a real relationship is that there's a level of not having to explain what you mean in most scenarios, because there's already this embedded relationship. And I think in a pilot, a lot of times, we feel the need to explain the context of a relationship. When you watch TV, especially very good TV, you'll see that you're asking questions the whole time. So remember initially when we were talking about plot, we talked a long time about, your teaser in particular in your first act should be asking more questions than it's answering. And the same thing should be happening in dialogue. You should be trying to figure out, wait, what happened? Who are these people? What does she mean by that? What does she call her? Is that a nickname? You should be asking yourself more questions than answering it. So ideally, particularly for a pilot, you'll be more free to drop the audience, boom, in the middle of a relationship, and then slowly peel back the layers of that relationship through dialogue without having to like give so much exposition. Exposition is the worst. Exposition will kill your show. And yes, there does have to be some level of exposition, but for the most part, if the outline is done well, then the information that we need to know is going to unveil itself in the right time. And it doesn't have to expose itself in the dialogue. Even the nature of a relationship doesn't have to expose itself in dialogue. The more I watch it, the more I understand what the power dynamic is. The more I realize this is the person who takes control, and the other person is the person that follows. The more I realize that this person is the person who makes the rules, and then the person is the person who resists them. The more I realize that this person is the person who's vulnerable first, and then the other person slowly lets down that guard. That'll happen over time. So I think, to answer your question, I think the fear is that if you don't plant it well enough in the pilot, then we'll be lost. That's not true. The exciting thing about watching a pilot is figuring out how all these people are connected. And yeah, I'll share the pilots for normal people and feedback. Does that help, Alexis?
It does. It definitely does. I think that's something I've been trying to personally navigate. There are a lot of there was this episode of The Soup back in the day where it was making fun of a network comedy that was so explicit and so devoid of subtext. It was like, I am your father and you betrayed me this time and I'm wary of TV like that. So I don't want to write in that way, but I do know that like plot has to advance and things have to happen. I just feel like sometimes I get weighed down by trying to be funny and then in the nitty gritty of jokes and not advancing things. So that's where I'm personally stuck.
Yeah, no. Your plot should do all the heavy lifting. That's why we spend so much time on plot.
Yeah.
Your plot should move the story forward, and then your characters are free to be sort of more complex and mysterious and interesting in ways that we understand slowly over time. Okay.
Real quick, I was gonna say, it's more of a comment, I think, than a question, because I found myself like in the last iteration of my script, I feel like I was putting subtext in the action blocks. And I don't know if you have, and maybe today will help like try to, with tips to like not do that. Cause I'm always like, well, where do I put this? Is it just for me to know or like, and just make sure it
Yes.
comes out? Yeah, okay.
So when I'm editing a script, I go by and like cross all that stuff out. Because you can't see it on screen. So if it's like she feels this way, he's conflicted about this, they're wondering this, it's not in the dialogue, then there's no way for me to know it. So when you, because it's a visual art form, right? So then when you watch it, it doesn't translate. If you want me to know that he's conflicted, then give me action. Is he pacing back and forth? Is he, sweating? Like, what visually does it look like? And that, unless you're gonna put it in the dialogue where he says, I'm conflicted, then you have to show me with action, or show me with the plot over a period of time. So if he's conflicted, he may make a decision this way and then change his mind and then ask his mother for advice and then change his mind again. You know what I mean? Yeah, but if you ever find yourself writing, he feels or she feels,
I
or
definitely
you
did
think,
that. I know I did that with the last one.
or any of that, then close your eyes and be like, okay, what does that look like? What does it look like when somebody thinks a thought? It looks like nothing. It doesn't look like anything. So you want to go back and edit for that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so dialogue helps to show off your chops as a writer. I know we're going to talk about this next week in terms of just your careers, but it's like the number one telltale sign that you're a strong writer is the dialogue. There are other telltale signs, but it's hard to, you can't overcome bad dialogue. Even if you have this beautiful description and this perfect structure, if the dialogue is bad, there's no real coming back. And on the other hand, if the other things that are lacking and the dialogue is really good, like really, really good, it gives someone an indication that they probably have some kind of like raw talent. We just need to work on other things. I may let them in this program, or I may give them a grant or whatever. So you want to keep that in mind, and you want to keep in mind that dialogue is a tool, okay? And so each character uses dialogue to do different things, right? So you'll learn this a lot if you ever work with actors. It'll ask, the question will be asked, okay, what are they doing with this line? So actors will say, what's my motivation? I've actually never heard an actor say that, but it's a stereotype of what's my motivation, or a phrase that is very similar to what's my motivation. Meaning, I have this line, what am I doing with it, right? If the line is, I don't care. What's the subtext if I don't care? You know, you as the writer have to know. And so when I think of a tool, I think of like a gardening tool, right? There's a certain tool that you need to like break hard ground, and there's other tools that you need to prepare the ground. There are tools that you need to I don't garden very much, but on a plethora of things. Mostly I think of like digging stuff up, putting stuff down, preparing the ground for something new, like giving the ground nourishment, like all those kind of different things. Okay, so dialogue is the same thing. It's a tool. What are you trying to accomplish, right? So a dialogue, you can use it, and these are just examples, but this is not exhaustive. You can use it to educate, to seduce, to condescend, to emasculate, to vilify, to encourage, to thrill, to comfort, to hide, to decide, to do anything. So for example, if we use the same line, I don't care, and we want to thrill someone, it's a very different performance if you're trying to thrill someone with the concept of I don't care than it is to comfort someone. So let's say you have the old lady and she is, just about to retire, and she's like, what should I do? I'm like, I don't care, you can do anything. It's very different than someone who's sitting down, whose spouse just died, and they're like, I don't know what to do next. What should I do? And you're comforting them and letting them know that it doesn't matter. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want. If you want to deceive someone and let them know that you don't care when you really do care, right? That's the subtext. That's a completely different performance. And so dialogue is it's a tool. It's a way to get from point A to point B, but the subtext is telling you how you're using these words as language to get from one to the other. Does that make sense? It's like one of the most important things I feel like you're gonna learn. And that's why it's very helpful to read something and then watch it, then read it, then watch it, then read, then watch it, read, then watch it, because you'll see how that translates from the page to the screen and what the artists do with it. You guys have any questions about this? The tool? Dialogue. No? Okay. Okay, so it can be used to do all of these things. I think the list is endless, really, what it is that you're trying to do with someone, to someone or to a situation based on the language that's used and how it's delivered and what you as an artist see that as. So we're gonna do an exercise that's gonna help you reveal the character dialect for your characters. So character dialect is something that I think illustrates how your character goes about the world. So each character may have each character may have like different tools that they use, like, oh, I want to comfort someone in the scene, I want to seduce someone in the scene. But for the most part, the characters have like a standard way of going about certain things. There's like generally how they function in the world, how they communicate with the world around them, right? So if you look at Fleabag, you have a main character who usually uses like sarcasm as like her way to function in the world. It's a protecting, mechanism that she has to not let people get too close to her. So you'll see in the second season where she's having a conversation with the priest, he's asking her questions. And she's like, wow, you're asking a lot of questions. He's like, I'm just trying to get to know you. And she's like, I don't want that. So it's something that we sort of seen her deflect from for like a whole season and a half, but she doesn't have the ability to say it until it's forced out of her, right? That's how she communicates with everyone. So that would be her character dialect, her like default function as a character. And a lot of you are having characters who are your main characters. So it's like, well, how do they communicate in a way that's distinct to them, right? And then you have the character that they're speaking with, or character that they're in a relationship with, and that character speaking back to them and their own character dialect. So you have the sister character who will speak back to her in condescension, or the godmother character who she's in a relationship with, and that person will speak back to her using a specific tactic. And so when you put them two in a scene together, you have one character deflecting and one character condescending, and that becomes the rhythm of how these two people communicate every time they're together. And that, when done well, is magic. Okay, so you're going to reveal your character dialect using a sentiment to write how your character would use their own communication style. So this is the formula. Character plus sentiment equals your character dialect. So for example, if the line is, I have something to tell you and it's not good. This character, I made up Hannah. If she wants to say, I have something to tell you and it's not good, she may say, I have something to tell you and it's not good, because she's a straight shooter. She doesn't know how to do anything else. It's very much how she lives her life. She cannot help it. That is how you've written her to be. You have this other character, Brian, who, as opposed to saying, I have something to tell you and it's not good, which is, what it is that he needs to communicate, he'll just grab a beer and chug the beer really hard, right? And you have this other character, Cody, who also has to say something like, I have something to tell you and it's not good. And he'll say, I love you, right? That's how he would begin that. But all of them are trying to say the same thing. Does that make sense? Because you guys are going to do it for your own character. So do you guys have any questions about that?
Can you
Yeah.
define sentiment in this situation?
Sentiment, yeah. So sentiment is the content of what it is that you're trying to say. So the sentiment is, I have something to tell you and it's not good. It's the actual content, devoid of any tactics, devoid of any approaches, devoid of any subtext or content. It's just like, this is what you as the writer have to put in their mouths for them to say. And then you add that with the person who's saying it based on like how you're deciding that they're communicating in the world. And it won't come out like, I have something to tell you and it's not good. It'll come out as, asking you about the weather and avoiding it as much as possible, and then letting them bring it up, and then you co-signing. You know what I mean? So when you think of your own life, and you think of your relationships and stuff like that, you can probably think about how 3 or 4 people in your own life would say the same thing. So in your own life, if someone had to tell you, the writer, someone had to tell you, that this is, the end of the road. We're not going to be able to, renew your contract. If your boss had to be, basically fire you. If you've had more than one boss, there may be a lot of different ways of saying that same thing. Now, the sentiment is the same. Sentiment is you're fired. But your mother who loves you would use a certain approach. She would start with all of your strengths and how you're going to do so well out there. And this is a great opportunity for you to see something new, right? Your grandmother, who's a stress shooter, who's like, all right, honey, I'm sorry, this is it. You're fired, but you'll land on your feet. Your father, who's very emotional, would start just sobbing. And your best friend would, cook a dinner first, maybe, like the sentiment is the same, but everybody's approach is going to be different. And that is your character dialect. Does that make sense?
So we're all just
Yeah,
gonna
that-
use, oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, yeah, that makes sense.
So we're all just using that same, just this example, like I have something to tell you, and we're gonna use it for our main characters right now?
Yes, so you're going to choose 3 different characters. You're going to choose your main character, someone that they talk with all the time, that they're like in constant communication with. So for example, it may be the woman who has to take your main character throughout a new world. And then the other person may be your character's ex-fiance. And they just may have different approaches to dealing with what's happening. It may be her best friend, or the woman who, called her and asked her about what she can wear. So you can choose who those people are, but you want it to be someone who your character is going to be in contact with on sort of opposite ends of the tactic they would use.
Okay.
Okay. You guys have any questions about the character dialect? No? Okay, all right, great. So we're gonna take 10 minutes. I'm gonna leave this up, this formula, I'm gonna leave this up. We're gonna take 10 minutes and try to do it for 3 characters. But if you guys have any questions, drop something in the chat during the 10 minutes. And it's 3 characters. One of them should be your main character, and then 2 of them should be people that your character has to interact with pretty regularly. Okay, so it's 7:03. I have 7:03. New York should be 8:03, and West Coast should be 5:03. So then we're going to come back in 10 minutes, which would be 7:13 for anyone in the middle of the country. New York 8:13, and the West Coast 5:13. All right, how did that go with everyone? You guys feel like you have a grasp on the character dialects?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of like what you already feel you know about this person. It feels a little extreme for some of mine, but I don't know if I'm just trying to like capture them too much, but it feels like how they would react or respond.
Okay, great. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
So the standard prompt is, I heard the great news about your promotion. First character is Cassie. I heard about the promotion. Can you believe it? I don't think any of us are expecting you would be the one to get it. The next character dialect is Alicia, eyes wide in excitement. Yo, is this what I hear? Is what I hear true? Look at you. The last character is Mom. So about this promotion, they're not running you ragged at that job of yours, are they? So I'm basically like, Cassie's basically the passive aggressive coworker. Alicia is the cheerleader. Mom is like always worried and wary of like how her daughter is like managing things. So
Okay. What are you thinking about the main character?
in terms of how she views,
In terms of how she would, if you would have put that in her mouth, what would it come out as?
I think she would be more just more thoughtful. She's probably like very, like a general congratulations and something that would just sound like nice. I think she's always way engaging and kind of like self-conscious in a way of like how she's perceived is very important. So she'd probably just be very thoughtful in how she would say that. Or you mean
Okay.
how she would respond to some of these people?
No, how she would say it. Like what, like if you were to put it in her mouth, like what would those words be?
It would be closer to the core prompt. I think she might add a little something to it to just be personable, but I think in general, she's like a more balanced person in how she would couch that phrase.
Okay. Okay. Who's next?
I can go. I hope I did this right, but I used the same prompt that you had. I have something to tell you and it's not good. For Nia, I have her saying, have you eaten today? I made you something. And then for Maze, who's the girl who shows her around Waju, I just have her saying, Nia, you should sit down. And then Alori, who's the ruler of the land, I just had her, okay, so this is how it's going to go. And that's it. I'm not sure if I did this correctly or not.
Yeah. I mean, those sound really good. They sound different enough. Whereas if I were to put these three people in a conversation together, I can pick out who's talking.
Okay.
And I know that's the question that Simi had last week about her characters. Was like, are they distinctive enough? And I think that they are. But this I think is what really helped the different characters to stand out. And so that's kind of what you want to go for. You want it to feel very specific to the person talking. Speaking of which, Simi, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. That was funny. I also did I have something to say, or I have something to tell you. Kyan would say, I have something to say. Iniola would say, why don't we sit down? And Jade would say, I'm telling you this because you need to know, not because I care.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Who was the middle person?
Iniola, she's the mom. She's the mom of the household.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense to me. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Charlie is a pacer. I've established her as a pacer. And the prompt would be delivering bad news. Charlie would pace until the intended party would be like, hey, what's going on? And then Charlie would blurt it out. Kate.
Just say, sorry. So for Charlie would just, when it came to the actual words, Charlie would just say the actual words after the pacing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but only upon being prompted. Like she's using
Okay.
the pacing to buy some time, trying to figure out, like, because she's very much in her head a lot of the time, trying to figure out how to say it. And say she's in conversation with one of her friends, they would be like, "Hey," and then she would just blurt it out because she didn't figure out how to best say it. Kate would ask some leading questions like, "Are you in the space to receive bad news right now?" Because she's very careful. And Vi would just sit the person down and be like, "Hey," and then say the bad news because Vi is a rip the band-aid kind of person.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I love how different they are from each other, but you could definitely see how they still are in relationship with each other. None of them feel so diametrically opposed where it would like break the bonds of their relationship.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Zodia, do you want to go next?
I'm still kind of working on it,
Okay.
but for Dreamer, not my accent, using the prompt, I have something to tell you and it's not good. I kind of started off with, so just hear me out.
Okay.
And I'm working on the other characters.
Okay. Okay. I'll circle back to you. Chelsea?
Hello. I did the prompt. I have something bad to tell you, but I did it backwards. Because I gave the responses, but I also give what they would say. So if it was Leah, she would say, like, is it bad? If it is, I'm busy. Like she wouldn't want to hear it. And how she would tell somebody bad news, and she'd be like, "Hey, girl, you know you're gonna laugh at this. You're gonna laugh." For Brett, I have how he would respond to it. I have something to tell you. That he would say, "I have something to tell you too, but you first, though." And the second response is he would just, if it's bad news, he would gleefully tell you. He would, "I have something to tell you," with a smile on his face. For Cheyenne, I have if she was told they have something to tell her that's bad, she would say, "Of course, what's going on?" And how she would say it is she would be, "Sit down, I want you to take a deep breath, relax." She's more calming. And for Candy, if she was getting told the bad news, she'd tell the person, "Lay it on me. Just tell me like it is." And how she would tell somebody bad news, she would just blurt it out.
Okay. So what would, if you had to write this in dialogue, like what would be the actual language that they would use?
Just so you know, you're getting suspended. Brett told me. And the person's like, "Good morning."
Okay.
She's just like, as soon as she sees the way to tell you, she gonna tell you, even if it don't fit.
Okay. So that's for which character is that for?
Candy is like the kiss ass one, the one that's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's her.
Okay. So she would not be the one to just say it.
Oh, you asking me? Are you saying that maybe she wouldn't be?
I mean, it's up to you. I'm just trying to.
I guess for her, it's more like if it's not Brett, she wouldn't tell him like that. But if it's other people at the office, because she's like the older lady, so she's like, she'll tell like the other ones, like she'll tell the other ones off, but she wouldn't tell Brett off. She would talk to him completely differently. So for like Lee and Cheyenne, she would just tell them like something, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. So for Leah, it would be, what would it be for Leah?
she was the hey girl, she's downplaying it, downplaying the whole thing, even though people would like it's something drastic, she's gonna downplay it regardless.
Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to get like really granular about what these words are. Because it's just, go ahead.
Gotcha. The words for her, like I was thinking casual.
Yeah. So for example, if she were like a machine or computer, and you would put the words in her mouth and then they would like come out somehow, it would start off with, hey girl, and then what will follow?
She probably like, you're gonna laugh about this one day, but you know how I was supposed to send in that paperwork that you told me to send in? Turns out I didn't. Silly me. And
Mhm,
yeah, they called, and that's a problem now. But see
mhm,
how you told me I didn't do this thing?
mhm,
See, you should
mhm.
have done it yourself. Like, I don't know, she'd like spin it and like, I don't know.
She'd like make a sandwich out of it, basically. Like
Yeah.
put the truth in the middle and then like couch it in these other sort of like in these like fluffy sentiments or whatever. And the reason why I'm asking you to bring it down that granular is because you're gonna have to like duplicate it over and over. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad
Thank
we
you.
have an even number tonight, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little bit of swapping, which technically blends in this week and next week. But after you sort of sell your shows and you guys sort of move on to being staffed on a television show, your main job will be to how to write in someone else's voice. And so if you want to write for television, you need to learn how to do that. You need to learn how to do that well. And it also helps you to understand how well you've written or explained your character, so that, for example, for your own show, when you have your own staff of writers, they can go off and, the way that they're writing and write in your character's voice. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a scene from the opening scene from your partner's script, and you are going to reassign the lines with subtext based on what you know about them. So I feel like it's a little of a complicated assignment, but it's actually really easy. So everyone has at least written their first few pages. So you're going to take the very first scene, not the teaser. So the very first scene of Act 1, because everybody doesn't have a teaser. Very first scene of Act 1. And you're going to be assigned to your partner. And then you're going to rearrange that scene, or quote unquote, rewrite it in the voice of your characters or their characters based on subtext. So for example, if I'm rewriting Exodia's script, I'm going to take a look at it, and based off what I know about her character, I'm going to rewrite those lines written with subtext based off of what I just came to understand about taking the sentiment of something, what is it they're trying to say, and then remixing it based off of their character dialect. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I completely understand. Are we taking someone else's script, and then based on how we understand their main character to speak, the script is going to be reformatted from the main character's point of view, or how the main character would have written the script?
So not exactly. So you're gonna take that first scene and rewrite based on what you know the writer is trying to say, and then adding more subtext if possible,
Okay.
right? So if I read your script and your character saying, all right, I'm going to the store, right? I may say, based off of what I know about the character, I think they may say something more like, are you staying here? Because they're passive aggressive. The person's like, am I staying? What do you? Yes, I'm staying here. Where are you going? And then that's how they get to say where they're going. You know what I mean? So that's going to be your approach. I mean, obviously, there are going to be scenes where it's like, oh, wow, this dialogue is so well written. The subtext is so clear. But you can always take it a step further. When you sort of close your eyes and you think about, what would this person be trying not to say? That's such a good question to ask yourself when trying to write subtext. Yeah, and if you guys have questions throughout, let me know. I was gonna look at, Janice will be here in a few minutes, I think. But in the meantime, we're gonna take the latest version of everybody's script, but again, like the first page of their act one. And I'm gonna assign you partners now, just based off what I'm seeing on my screen. So I have Lana and Exodia, you guys are partners. Simi and Chelsea, you guys are partners. And Alexis and Rafe, you guys are partners. Let's take 20 minutes to do this. If Janice comes, I'll be her partner. And look at the latest version of Market Girls. And I'll work with her on that probably in maybe a breakout room or something. But do you guys have any questions about this?
I know in mine, the first page is like a lot of series of shots. So should it be bumped up to where the first time there's actually two characters in dialogue?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Alexis,
who's
did you
my
get that for
backup?
Rex's script?
Yeah, I can do that for his script.
Okay, Exodia, you were saying something?
I missed who my partner was.
Oh, your partner is Lana.
Great.
Exodia and Lana and Simi and Chelsea and Alexis and Ray. And then Janice said she's running late, but I will be her partner when she gets here. If she's showing the next 20 minutes. Okay, so that'll be 7:52 for anyone in the middle of the country, 8:52 on the East Coast, and then 5:52 for the West Coast. Hi, Kyra.
Hey.
Hi. So we're in the middle of an assignment.
Okay.
We are rewriting some dialogue for subtext. I can be your partner for this, but I want to, I guess, talk to you a little bit about subtext. So can I meet you in a breakout room?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, my initial thought would be go back to the outline as soon as possible, structure it in a way that has escalated conflict. So when you get to the page, you don't have to ask yourself those questions about what happened next.
Okay.
And then get to writing as quickly as possible. Are we missing some people? Chelsea.
Rafe and Chelsea will be here shortly.
Oh, okay. Okay. It might still be in their breakout room. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Hey guys.
Hey.
Okay, so what is it like writing in somebody else's voice? Were you guys able to do that?
It took some thinking to try to figure out these people, but yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, it just took some thinking to try to figure out the relationship. There's like three people bantering kind of off of each other. So it's trying to figure out who is more or less, who's the middle, who is
Mm-hmm.
relief, and who is like maybe more like deadpan.
Did how your partner explain it or explain some of these characters, like when she did it, did that help color?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I probably should have asked earlier though about about one particular character that I assumed was more playful than the others. Yeah.
Okay, great. So does that mean you want to go first? Are you saying you're ready?
I mean, I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
Um,
So who's your partner? And you want to tell us about the scene?
Yeah. Alexis is my partner. This scene is the sort of opening where Charlie's entering the office building at work. I will caveat with the character Kate. It's probably punched up a little too comedic here, but I think I could swap that in some other go.
Okay.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. Should I share this in the channel or just read it out?
You just read it.
Okay, cool. Interior office building lobby, moments later, Charlie's picking up her binder from the ground and still on the phone with Kate and Vi. Three-way screen split returns. Charlie, well, the CFO thinks I'm a sex-crazed finger gun girl bright and early on a Monday, so guess I'm starting the week off strong. Kate, better than that time you thought you were a furry. Charlie, listen, I told y'all I thought it was a dress-up theme for Halloween. Elevator dings and door opens. People start to enter. Charlie's line continues. That's my cue. Love you both. Cool. Kate then replies, you know what they say, early bird gets the finger guns. Love you, girl. Charlie, unamused, says funny. Kate then sends a water gun emoji to their group text with the text pune pune. Charlie returns it with the middle finger emoji and then a gif of someone making a heart with their hands. The split screen frames begin to close on Kate and Vi. Vi, hurriedly, as if she consents to her frame beginning to close. Mwah, love you much. Bye. Check your privacy filter. I'm going to send you some NSFW motivational memes all day. I like crammed the words together as if she was like just trying to like cram the words with no spaces. It's only like a small adjustment. And then I put starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so action line. Charlie is now once again singularly in frame. She's the last to hop on the elevator. We hear the chime of Charlie's phone. She looks at her phone and reacts as she just received something vulgar. Charlie, under her breath, equally annoyed, entertained, and appalled, replies, Vi, what the hell? And that's the end of the lines.
Wonderful. Okay. So what's your reaction? Does this feel authentic to the character, way off base? And if way off base, is there anything that you would change or add or subtract about the way you've set up your character so far? And then we come to understand them.
not way off base.
Okay.
And I think I very intentionally made their differences not as apparent in early dialogue because I wanted it to be revealed throughout the show, the ways in which they were different. I really liked the use of the continued use of split screen with Vi talking really fast and almost as if she knows that her screen is out. I really liked that direction, and I might take it because I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thank you so much for crafting that. I thought the furry line was very funny. I probably won't use it, but I did think it was funny.
That's probably not Kate's line. After you told me she was more serious, I was like, oh, that's not for Kate. She wouldn't be
It's
the one.
definitely more of a Vi thing to say, but still funny. Furry is always great.
Great. So what about your partner, Alexis? What scene are you gonna show us? And yeah.
Totally. So I am working on the scene in which we see Anana with Alex for the first time. I think Rafe does a really great job with subtext as is. And as I mentioned, I felt like one of the characters was doing more of the revealing than another character. So really what I did were some small changes here. So it felt like how the revelations were happening were a bit more balanced.
Okay.
I sound raspy because I've been fighting battles against allergies, but I'm ready. I'm ready to read.
Okay.
Okay, dokes. Let's start with Anana text pizza pills park. Alex doesn't reply at first. They've left Anana on red for a few moments. Anana resigns, starts pacing around her apartment, casually glimpsing over at the nightstand. She hears a sudden chime of her phone and instantly rushes back over it. Alex, I remembered. See you soon. Anana, say less, my treat. Thanks again. Couldn't do this without you. Alex, oh, I already knew that. Exterior park afternoon. Anana is walking through the park through a series of paths to a secluded little section. We see Alex casual but stylish, smoking a joint, sitting on the ground, leaning against the sole bench in the center of the private nook. I see you made it and didn't get lost this time. Alex holds up a pizza box and gestures broadly before patting the bench for Nana to sit. Park it and tell me what's up. Anana tries to contain excitement as she walks up to Alex and hugs them before taking a slice of pizza. Cut to exterior park late afternoon. Anana is taking a drag from Alex's joint, looking up at the maze of hedges of the sky. Anana, it's a weird one. You know my dreams have always been vivid, but this was wild. Oh, trust me, I remember your vivid dreams. If you were trying to break up with me, you should have used your words instead of your fists. Beat. There's an awkward silence between the two of them for a moment. Alex, I'm sorry. You know how I meant it. I didn't mean it. And then she cuts him off. No, it's okay. It's just it was a joke. Besides, I kind of liked kicking your ass in my dreams. Oh, really? And they playfully jab at one another. The main changes I made were just sort of making sure that there are moments where Anana has opportunities to reveal things. Because as I mentioned to Rafe, it felt like Alex was doing all the revelation. From Rafe's perspective, it's because Anana was a little bit more reserved. But even when she was talking about her dreams, I felt like she would say something like, you know how it typically goes, something like that. Very tiny changes. It's a great script.
So a little more history, like a little more like acknowledging the shared history there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was such good subtext in it already. So all the changes I made were so minor.
Wonderful, great. What's your reaction, Ray? Do those feel like in tune with who the characters are and how they would express themselves, specifically Anana? Or does it feel like, there's probably a stronger way to introduce her so that we sort of understand her character and her language and how she would express herself with this relationship that does have some history? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really liked it because I kind of have this thing where I write this character as if she has her walls up as like the starting point. But I think what I really enjoyed about her, like kind of giving more and giving and taking more, is that like Alex should feel like someone that she's close to, comfortable with, and is more open and expressive than she normally would be. So like I really like that call to like bring her into the dialogue, or like explaining herself or describing how she feels more, because Alex is going to be one of those few people that she just feels that way with.
Mhm.
And that will probably give a bit more contrast than like when she's out in the world where she might have her walls up. Alex shouldn't be that person that she's like kind of locked in with, unless there's like a signal to Alex that something's wrong. And so I think it's a really, really like smart call to basically be like, this is the point where she should relax, you know, be part of the sort of reveal about their relationship more than she normally would be.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm gonna try to add that contrast in how we see Anana express herself around certain people in different ways. I love it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. In a lot of scripts, what you'll see is over the course of a scene, and this has more to do with the anatomy of the scene. I don't know that we have a lot of time to get into tonight, but a lot of times in the anatomy of a scene, you'll sort of see the level of sort of transparency in the language shift and change or arc over time. So in some instances, you'll see a character who will start off, let's say, Lana and Alex, sort of start off in this place where it's sort of familiar and jovial, but there isn't that same level of intimacy that may happen toward the end of the scene. So you sort of building or creating an architecture for that, for those walls to come down over the course of the scene is always very fascinating to watch. So for example, I think films do this very well, but a lot of times in TV shows, you'll see it happen. So if we go back to Fleabag, the main character and her father have a very, very interesting relationship. And a lot of times their conversations start off like very guarded in the sense that it's very jilted from the beginning. And then over time, I've seen it happen twice in like a very, very interesting way. One is episode 1 of the second season. And then the other one is the last episode of the first season when they're by the car after the godmother sex exhibition. And you'll see the dad have a sort of start off very guarded, you know, relationship where, or conversation where, you know, his daughter just makes a big scene at his girlfriend's art show. And then he has this line that changes everything. And the line is, you know, there's all this conversation about how fathers ruin their daughters, but nobody ever talks about the other way around. And what that does is it then, it leverages enough vulnerability for the main character to then be less guarded. And then that creates enough sort of vulnerability, good faith for them to have more of an intimate conversation until the godmother shows up. So you can see it change in the middle of a scene in a very powerful way, and it's always so interesting to watch.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good one because he does like, that's like part of Fleabag's humor also. Like for him to say that another person would be offended, but for Fleabag, it was kind of like a admission of something. So yeah, I totally get that. Thank you.
Okay. Who's next?
I guess I can go. Oh.
Oh, no, you can go on. You got it.
Okay. So the first page of Act 1 didn't have that much dialogue, so I kind of just moved to this is Exodia's script. I moved to the Zoom call that they had because it felt like it was a little bit more dialogue there. So this is when she's kind of off in a daydream, but everybody else is on the call and she's muted and she kind of went into her different world and they're actually asking her questions and she's realized they're asking her questions and turns her mic back on. So it goes, sorry, I'm trying to like balance between the script and then what I wrote. So they're like, Dreamer, are you there? She says, oh, yes, I'm here. Can you repeat the question? Cody says, I was curious to how you determined the format for the database's new structure. Dreamer, a bit surprised, takes a second to realize her colleagues failed to read the notes she prepped. Slightly uncomfortable with the attention, she quickly responds, As I stated in the notes, the client data clearly showed an irregularity in the patterns for categorizing units over 50. Adjusting the parameters allow for consistent tracking of units up to 100. So yeah, no brainer. Cody, brilliant work. Thank you for the updates. I will be looking forward to the final brief. Cody logs off. There's a brief silence, and then we hear Tim, 35, sour-faced and jealous. Way to be a team player. Hope you enjoyed your 15 seconds of fame. Dreamer, my what? Dreamer is shocked, and before she can respond, Jenny chimes in. I think that's our time. So see everyone for team bonding at 4 p.m. Same link. Bye. Zoom meeting ends. So, okay. So I think the dialogue was really good. I just changed a little bit, like removed certain lines. Like I think she said when she came back, I was having technical difficulties. And I took that out and just had her just come back on screen and say, yes, I'm here. Can you repeat the question? Because I don't know how I receive Dreamer. Is like she wants to be more forceful, but she kind of like calls herself back every time she tries to be like stand up for herself. So I don't know if she would even say there's a technical difficulty. She just would just say, can you read the question? Like just trying to get back into it. And then I tried to like even show her again saying like, well, as I stated in the notes, like you guys didn't read, but then kind of being scared and just going right back into her like very technical description of what she talked about in her presentation. So it's like a give and take of her just trying to buck up, but then being scared. I tried to display that. And then she didn't have a line after Lana. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. It says your internet connection is unstable. Sorry. I don't know where I stopped, but I was saying she didn't actually have. Okay.
Okay. No, that's exactly what I was saying. I heard she didn't actually have a line.
She didn't have a line after Tim says, I hope you enjoyed your 15 seconds of fame. She was cut off by someone else, but I actually gave her a line to say, my what? Again, just trying to show like that she wants to book up, but she's scared. And then someone else comes in and says, okay, that's our time. So I feel like if I had more pages, I might have been able to do a little bit more, but that's what I got.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your reaction, Exodia?
I definitely feel like Lana's spot on with the give and take, kind of like wanting to engage or wanting to have like this kind of retort, but either holding themselves back. And I think with a little like obviously like a more intimate scene, like it'd be a little bit easier to pick up on like the subtlety of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Falana?
Okay, well, this scene was pretty short. I did the fruit wife and fruit husband with Nia. Mm-hmm. And then the whole idea, or I can read it and then just tell you what I was thinking. So exterior liquor store night, Nia, visibly upset and still in her wedding dress, is rushing out of the liquor store with 2 bags full of wine. She whisks past an older couple selling fruit from a cart outside of the liquor store. Fighting back tears, she stops to watch them. Fruit wife notices her, looks her up and down, and approaches her like she understands what has just happened. Fruit wife. They say if you give half a strawberry to your true love, you'll stay in love forever. Fruit wife looks back at fruit husband and smiles. Fruit husband gestures to his wife almost as if he was granting her permission. She nods back at him and turns back to Nia. Fruit wife hands Nia a box of strawberries. Here, do with this as you please. Nia starts to tear up, takes the strawberries and turns away. Nia, thank you. The couple watch Nia as she walks away. They look at each other lovingly, fade out. My thought process with rewriting, and I didn't really do that much editing except for like taking out the beginning part of Fruit Wife where she says, I don't know if this is true or not, is based on my interpretation of Nia being kind of like A-type, controlling and very assured. So I just felt like if Fruit Wife was like, I don't know if this is true or not, then she would have completely disregarded her, as opposed to like taking it with a grain of salt, where she's just like, they say, kind of like mythical type. And then with the second part where Fruit Wife says, here, it looks like you could use a little bit, it looks like you could use a little magic strawberry love too. I kind of gave like the line of way to have Nia like make her own mind up. So do with it as you please, kind of like I just put her as like, if she's a controlling type, someone can't really, not necessarily tell her what to do, but like just find a way to show that she would make her own decision. And then, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I like that a lot because, and it works well with the choice you made with the first part of like taking out, I don't know if this is true or not, because you're right, like how Nia will receive that would be like, oh, then it's not a fact, it's not proven, dismiss. And then, so I like that. And then even with the second part of Fruit Wife just being like, here you go, because Nia kind of needs to feel like it was her, like everything's her idea. So yeah, I really like those choices. So thank you.
Awesome. And if there's, places as you're looking back at your script where you feel like, oh, I really want this character to sort of speak more in line with how I built them and how they work in my mind, like start, slow, sort of scene by scene, and see how that comes back. I don't think you have to do a whole new draft for that to work out, but that's sort of what we're building for, is to not, recreate the entire building, but to, spackle it and help the characters feel more vibrant, more alive, and more specific to themselves. Chelsea, did I give you the wrong character? I mean, the wrong partner?
I think I'm supposed to be Chelsea's partner.
Okay, great. Okay, it worked out. Okay, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, I just wasn't in the group with her. I was in a group with Rafe and Alexis.
Oh, okay, but you had the right partner. Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, I think I did the technology wrong. Okay, good. Okay, so do you want to go next, Chelsea?
Sure. Wait, did I unmute myself? Okay, yeah. Okay, let me pull up the thing. Okay. So I had Simi's, and I did the second scene, interior vehicle Dawn. It's between Oyinda and Cayenne and their mother and daughter. Both how I viewed the characters are direct. So just the changes that I did make, it was just more like just bringing out that directness, and then everything else I kept the same. So I'll read it. Interior vehicle Dawn. The drive is gloomy weather. A storm seems to be chasing them from behind. Oyinda and Cayenne sit side by side in silence. Oyinda looks like she has something to say, just as the driver turns up the music and an inappropriate song plays. Turn it off, please. He does as he's told. Oyinda says, Cayenne, why didn't you answer my calls? Cayenne ignores her and continues staring out the window. Oyinda says, baby, I'm not upset with you. No response. Okay. Well,
Chelsea?
yeah.
I can't hear you that well.
Hello. You can hear me?
Yeah, you sound like you're a little bit underwater, but I can hear you a little better now. Or maybe it's just me. Can everybody else hear?
No, she sounds like a little far away.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear anything that I?
A
I
little
heard you
bit,
at
like
the very
kind of
beginning.
Hold on, let me take them out. That might be it. Okay, now you can hear me.
Yep.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Really loud, yeah.
So I was saying that both of the characters are direct with each other. So the only changes I made is just in the beginning to make them a little bit more to the like direct with each other bring that out, but it is already there. So I was saying the scene is the first scene between the mom and the daughter. Interior vehicle dawn. I just get to so Oyinda and Cayenne sit side by side in silence. Oyinda looks like she has something to say, just as the driver turns up the music and an inappropriate song plays. And Oyinda says, "Turn it off, please." He does as he's told. And she turns to Cayenne and says, "Cayenne, why didn't you answer my calls?" Cayenne ignores her and continues staring out the window. She said, and Oyinda says, "Baby, I'm not upset with you." No response from Cayenne. Oyinda continues, "Well, the Medina's takeoff is today, and I was able to secure us a passage." Cayenne interjects, "No, you said we wouldn't leave again, not after last time. I want to stay on Earth. I want to stay with my friends." And then Oyinda says, "This is different. My friends who know more than me, who I trust with my life, both of our lives, and said, if you can leave, run." And then Cayenne says, "Don't you see the weather today? It's not a good day to travel." The driver rolls down the window. Oyinda, in a low voice, goes, "Allah, I hope you guide us towards safer passages. I hope you teach your daughter patience and understanding and rid her of the devilish traits her father inherited in her." Cayenne whispers, "Had to say something." Oyinda continues her prayer. "He's not even here. He's gone. You made him leave." Oyinda, "That's not what happened. Cayenne, I know enough. And look at us now. Look at us now going on a stupid spaceship. I could build one myself, you know." Then the both of them say, "First honors in space engineering." Oyinda says, "But what have you done with it?" "Nothing." Cayenne, "Just leave me alone." The car stops. The driver, "We are here." So what I was saying was both of them, you see that they both have very strong point of views. Some are wonderful reading because when I copied it on what's it called? I can't even think of the word. A final draft. It was out of order, so I was like trying to like read it because I was like, anyways. But well, all I did was just slight changes just to show the contrast a little bit there, a little bit more that they're both strong personalities, but it was already there. I just want to just try to make it.
Yeah, I really like that. I especially like the earlier line of like, you said we wouldn't leave Earth again. And I don't know if that's the direction I'm going necessarily, but I think it's important to like in the dialogue also state that this is more futuristic than I think I've said. Sorry, excuse me, I'm kind of sick. I think I've said previously. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. So, Simi, I think in this scene in particular, you have a unique opportunity to plant something that's unique. I'm using that word again, about this relationship. Specifically because they're having a fight that mothers and daughters have been having like since the beginning of time. But because her mom is going to be gone for so long and she has to get along without her, I'd be curious to know if there's something in the subtext that can speak to like her reliance on her mom. Because like how you built the character, now she's someone who's in the world on her own. She has to figure it out. And so they're having an argument that, let's say if you take it out of this like apocalyptic type situation, it could read like, you know, a mother and daughter argument in any scenario, but I feel like there's a possibility to bleed something specific to them in this argument, and specific about like what we're gonna see her change over the course of the show. So if her mother is overprotective and she's like annoyed or you know, if she's extremely intelligent, everything comes easy to her. Her mother's trying to like hint at, like you can't just rely on your intelligence. You have to work hard too, or something like that. So for example, when she gives the prayer out the window, I don't know, is there something specific about what she's praying about? You know, not just her being like a brat, but her, you know, utilizing what she has or being appreciative or something that over the course of the show, we're going to see you dismantle that very thing. So take some time and think about if there's some opportunities there.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, I can read Chelsea. So I did the scene in the beginning, I think it's on like page 5, where Leah comes into the office late and there's like a fire and things like that. I was just trying to give, I guess, Cheyenne a bit more agency because I think she doesn't have as much right now. And I always wondered like why she would be so like willing to like lie for her friend at work, because it's like a serious thing and it also puts her in jeopardy. So yeah, so this is after Leah gets out the Uber and all that stuff. Cheyenne: Leah, there you are. The super spy and his favorite gadget are on his way. Leah turns and makes eye contact with Brett and his office kiss-ass Candy, mid-50s female, making their way over to the women. Leah straightens up and looks them directly in the eye. Leah: Hey, Brett. Brett: Hi, Leah. Do you have a watch on you? Leah: A watch. Why would I be wearing that? Candy lifts her wrist to show that it's 11:30. Candy: Do you know how to read this? Candy to Brett: Boss, do you want this? I got it on the way out. He takes a sip of the coffee and burns his tongue. He hands it back to her. Brett: Leah, see this shining example of an outstanding employee? Well, then there's Cheyenne. Cheyenne: Now why am I in it? Brett: And all the way past hell is you, Leah. Where were you this morning? Leah: I had a lady's excuse. Candy whispers: Your period came? Leah: No, explosive diarrhea. I hope you're satisfied that I had to bear that all for you. Candy: I didn't see you this morning in the bathroom. This morning I had similar issues. They all stare at each other, and then at like the wall from the information Candy shared. Brett: This is your third late, and I told you that you would be placed on disciplinary probation if I was late, but I wasn't. Brett: Nobody saw you. Leah: I didn't know you used the ladies' bathroom too. Cheyenne tries to pull Leah aside. Leah: What are you doing? He's still our boss. Leah backs down slightly. I'll see you in the office later. We'll discuss more. Leah walks away from the commotion. Brett: You just can't do whatever you want to do in my office. I won't stand for it. Leah his voice gets strained out by the commotion of the firefighters. Leah enters the alley and screams, why me? And then end of scene.
Interesting. Okay. Chelsea?
I thought it was really funny about the diarrhea and like that was really funny. I feel like Leo totally would use that as an excuse. And Candy exposing herself. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, I definitely can use Cheyenne a bit more in like previous versions. Leah's helped Cheyenne get the job, and just over time, Cheyenne has improved doing her job versus Leah has backtracked. So Leah like helped her a lot and then gave her the shortcuts, and and Cheyenne's applying herself and Leah's not. So that's what that dynamic is, but that definitely needs to be clear because people wouldn't get like, why is she, doing that? So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting dynamic that I'm looking forward to seeing play out. You know what I mean? Because there is power dynamics are always very interesting to play with. And when you have a power dynamic of one character feels like they owe another character, but then it changes slightly over time, it's very interesting to kind of see that dissolve. That sort of like gratitude, and how at first you're not going to say anything, and then you're like passive aggressive about it, and then you have to be clear about it, then you have to be aggressive about like watching that across the board. Whenever, if ever, you can see something escalate or de-escalate, it's always a great storytelling technique.
Right.
I think that's everyone. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna take those very same scenes that your partner sort of helped shed some light on, and you are gonna give them, you're gonna give them a pass yourself. So Kyra, I think you're the only one who didn't have a partner. So this is what you're gonna do for yours. It's based off of like what you got out of what everyone else was able to do. You're gonna take that first scene, not your teaser, the first scene in Act 1, and you're gonna do a dialogue pass on that scene. Everyone else is going to redo a dialogue pass on the scene that their partner did for them. Does that make sense? You guys have any questions? Do you have any questions, Kyra?
Wait, say that again. What am I doing? A dialogue, what?
You're doing a dialogue pass on your first scene of your first act. So basically, with the subtext in mind, you're going to do another pass on that scene and see if you can create dialogue with more subtext.
Okay.
And then everyone else, your partner has gone over a scene and added some context in there, some subtext in there, some dialogue that may work well for your character. You're gonna take that and do a pass for yourself. Simi, you had a question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I do. So we're just editing our scene, our own scene based off what our partner just did.
Right, and you don't have to go in the same direction as your partner, but hopefully it sparks something.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so instead of 20 minutes, we're gonna do 15 minutes. And then if you can't stay, since I was late, like you can drop them in Slack, but if you can stay, then we'll read them. Okay. Hi everyone, how's it going? Has anyone done with their scene?
Yeah, I think so, almost.
Okay. So it's the same exact scene that your partner wrote for us, right?
Yep.
Okay. Are you reading it?
Oh, no.
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
Cool. So I'll just start with the first line that I remember Alexis started with. Anana, pizza, pills, park. Alex doesn't reply at first. They've left Anana unread for a few moments. Anana resigns, starts pacing around her apartment, occasionally glimpsing over at the nightstand. She hears a sudden chime on her phone and she instantly rushes back over to it. Alex, yep, see you in 30. Anana text, say less, my treat, thanks again. I couldn't do this without you. Alex text, oh, trust me, we know this. Exterior park, afternoon. Actually, I should say evening. Anana is walking through a series of maze-like paths in a park until she reaches a secluded section. We see Alex, casual but stylish, smoking a joint, sitting on the ground, leaning against the sole bench in the center of this private nook. Anana's face lights up in excitement as she walks up to Alex. She hugs them before taking a slice of pizza. Anana, thank you so much. I'm so excited. Alex, oh, I bet you are. I'm just wondering if you're more excited to see me or this pizza. Anana, joking sarcastically, definitely the pizza. Alex, oh, really? Alex jabs Anana playfully. Alex continued, or at least you didn't get lost this time. Park it, what's up? Alex gestures broadly before patting the bench for Anana to sit. Cut to exterior park later in the evening. Anana is taking a drag from Alex's joint, looking up through the maze of hedges at the sky. It's a weird one. Like, my dreams are vivid as hell, but this one is wild. Alex, oh, trust me, I remember getting slapped upside the head during your vivid dreams. If you was trying to break up with me, there were better ways. There's an awkward silence between the two of them for a moment. Alex continued, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Anana, no, it's okay. It was just a joke. I mean, it's better now. I'm almost sleeping through the night now. They meet eyes for a moment, and then Anana clears her throat and looks away. How have you been? Alex says, it's been easier. Anana, yeah. Alex nudges Anana a little and nods her head, hinting at something up at the sky. They both look up at the moonlit sky and they just barely brush shoulders as they lean against one another. And that's the end of the scene.
Oh, that's so good.
Thank you. That adjustment that Alexis gave me a lot more to work with because I was guarding Anana a lot. Like it was like walls were definitely there on her.
Mm-hmm. And you still gave her the ability to not say exactly what was on her mind, but she was still able to be more present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels like the same thing when I had the dinner party thing where again, she's kind of like this spectator where I've had this habit of writing her almost like a spectator. And so, yeah, I can definitely kind of feel it a bit more now where she's got more to say and more agency and like in dialogue with other people.
Yeah. I mean, going forward this week, just think about the fact that it's always more interesting to watch someone say the wrong thing than to not say anything at all. So characters who put their foot in their mouths or sort of say the inappropriate thing or the wrong thing. It's always so interesting watching that happen. and how they recover, as opposed to them not have anything to say. So play with that if you have the opportunity to.
Cool, totally.
Great. All right, Alexis, do you want to go next?
I definitely can. I can go next.
Okay.
I didn't make that many changes because I feel like I kind of like the way things are now, and that it's hard to differentiate who they are exactly, but I want to do more revelations later in the script. Like based on Rafe's notes, I feel like the revelations that come on later in the script need to be stronger and more apparent instead of gradual as they currently are structured. So I'm happy to talk through my script as it is currently, but there aren't that many.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to start with where Rafe started. Interior, office building lobby. Moments later, Charlie is picking up her binder from the ground and is still on the phone with Kate and Vi. Three-way split screen returns. Charlie, well, the CFO thinks I'm a sex-crazed finger gun girl bright and early on a Monday morning, so starting off the week strong. Kate, you've been worse. Vi, remember when security thought you were a squatter? Charlie, that might be true. The elevator dings and doors open. People start to enter. That's my cue. Love you both. The three-way split screen starts to diminish with both Vi and Kate's screens getting smaller and smaller. Vi speaking rapidly as if she's aware her screen is disappearing. I'll be sending NSFW motivational memes to the group chat all day. So please tell me you got that privacy filter for your phone. Love you so much. And I think that was the main section that you read, Rafe, if I remember that correctly. I knew it wasn't clear that Kate was more of the straight man. So I tried to give her a line that made her sound like more of the straight man in that segment, but I'm also going to make her sound like more as the level-headed one throughout the script as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that like this introductory scene just happens not to be, in the rare chances, it happens not to be the scene where you really introduce the characters and dive into their personalities.
I kind of feel like that happens in the teaser for me. And this is just sort of like, let's advance the plot. Obviously, my characters are still my characters, but a lot of who they are initially and their first lines, even in the script, are very loud and very much speak to who they are in the teaser.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Yeah, just going forward this week, keep an eye out for opportunities. I feel like with the comedy, it's so much. The tradition definitely is to be a little more on the nose, but I think you're operating at a high level whenever you have comedy that is overt like yours is, because yours is, and still have characters with like spaces for like big arcs to happen. And big arcs are all about planting something specific about a character's way of being that's going to change. Yeah, and that can sometimes get lost within comedy. So I added some scripts that I think could be helpful, that could be helpful over the coming week, specifically for dialogue, because I don't want people going back and like restructuring the whole script, specifically for dialogue. And I think taking a look at Schitt's Creek can be helpful for you, just because the pacing is very similar to yours. It's very fast paced.
That's such a compliment. Thank you so much.
And these people are so distinctive and they all know each other so well, but that doesn't mean they accept everything about each other. And so the way that they sort of play off of each other, I think will be interesting to take a look at. The rhythm of that will be interesting to take a look at this week.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lana, do you want to go next?
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. Yeah, I'll go. I didn't really make that many changes. I really just changed what Exodia changed, and then started going into the scene where Nia's on top of the roof and changing a few things, but
Okay.
okay.
Which scene do you think changed the most in approach? Because the rooftop scene is a scene where she's talking to her ex-fiance, and what she's saying is very like much was in her mind. I wanted one thing, all I asked was for this.
Yeah. That one is more, I feel like that I need to do a lot. I want to do a lot more work on.
Okay.
I'm trying to get to it. Oh, no.
Okay.
I didn't do that much, but what I have is, okay, no, I'm gonna read the fruit wife part because
Okay.
I feel like that just makes so much sense right now. So do you want me to read like just the dialogue? That'll change, like, or the actual, like the action part too?
You want to read the actions too, because that counts as dialogue, yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing Exodia did, but Nia, exterior liquor store night. Nia, visibly upset and still in her wedding dress, is rushing out of the liquor store with 2 bags full of wine. She whisks past an older couple selling fruit from a cart outside of the liquor store. Fighting back tears, she stops to watch them. Fruit wife notices her, looks her up and down, and approaches her like she understands what has just happened. Fruit wife, they say if you give half a strawberry to your true love, you'll stay in love forever. Fruit.
Oh, Lana, I think you went out.
Can you hear me? No.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. It says I have all my bars. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi today, but I'll go. Where did I stop? I don't know.
The fruit wife said,
Okay.
half of a strawberry.
If they say if you give half of a strawberry to your true love, you'll stay in love forever. Fruit wife looks back at fruit husband and smiles. Fruit husband gestures to his wife almost as if he was granting her permission. She nods back at him and turns back to Nia. Fruit wife hands Nia a box of strawberries. Fruit wife, here, take a few. Nia starts to tear up, takes the strawberries and turns away. Thank you. So I think Zodia had it as take these, do with them what you will. And I just said here, take a few, because I did like her note about like, because Nia's such a control freak, like she doesn't like being told what to do. So I had her say take a few of the strawberries, but I didn't say like do what you will. I kind of want to show that on screen, kind of like with fruit wife making like a little, I don't know, mystical look or something like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want her to say anymore.
If Nia had a piece of dialogue at the very end of that scene, what do you think it would be?
At the end of the fruit scene?
Yes. Like if some lady, so basically, if the love of her life dumped her on her wedding day and some stranger lady wanted to give her like love advice, as she's like leaving the liquor store, what do you think her response would be?
Yeah, okay, let me think. It would definitely, she'd be taken aback. She probably wouldn't be willing to listen to this. Or just really, I'm trying to get to my car and like, I don't know why. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know why it's breaking up. I'll try to get closer. But I was saying she would probably be a little bit more dismissive of the lady because she already thinks she knows everything and she's just been through something traumatic and like you're out here selling strawberries. Like, I don't want to talk. So that's a good note. I didn't think about that until just now. But yeah, I think because I had her just being so distraught that she's kind of like she's a shell of herself right now. So that's why she's listening to them. But if she is who she still is, then she would be more dismissive.
Yes. Okay. So the only reason I'm asking, because I'm thinking about the like escalating trajectory of what is about to happen next. So next she's about to be on this roof. She's drunk, talking on the phone, right? And I feel like there's potential for something interesting to happen in dialogue, which really reveals where she is mentally, right? So have you ever seen someone like hanging on by the thread of their chinny chin chin? Just like,
Yes, me. Mhm.
yes, hanging on. Well, whenever we first meet her, she's kind of on the brink of something because she's like holding her life together, like with like thread and might and, you know, Pinterest board. She's just like, and she's not allowing, like, you know, I heard somebody say this a long time ago. I think it was a rock star's daughter. She said something about living life on life's terms and how that's like the most difficult thing to do. So you have a character who's not willing to live life on life's terms for whatever reason, whatever happened, whatever didn't happen. She's like, I am taking charge, you know, in every aspect of my life. And of course, because people don't have that kind of control, that kind of control doesn't really exist. She's like, with all her might trying to hold her life together to be this perfect thing that she envisions. And so when that crumbles, like hearing what she has to say on the like right before it crumbles can be very interesting and very telling about where she is mentally. And then we of course see the manifestation of that in the next scene.
Yeah.
Because she's not someone who, like, yes, she did all of this stuff for love, quote unquote, but she's not someone who like really believes in love because she's sort of she's like manufactured this thing.
It's more like check boxes than Yeah.
So when someone wants to talk to her about love, what's her reaction? I heard one of the best reactions. I saw this on a television show one time where they were like watching a romantic movie in like a quiet theater with like the music and the violins, and somebody like yelled out, lies, oh lies. And it's like very funny and very sad. And I think she'll have like that kind of like very cynical response because she tried to do everything she knew how to do and it didn't work out. If you can give her some dialogue, then even if you decide not to use it, I think it'll speak to her state of mind in an interesting way.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. That's a great note.
Yeah. What do we have? Do you want to try, Kyra? I know you didn't have a partner earlier on, but I'd love to hear your introductory scene.
But I can try. I don't have a lot. Because the first scene that I had initially, I don't have that anymore. So it's on the school bus. I hope I did this right. So in interior, school bus day, Harvey walks down the aisle of the school bus scanning to find an open seat. His friend Marlo waves him down. Harvey smiles and scurries to the seat where his friend sits. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little low, but I can hear you. I know Harvey's on the school bus.
Okay. Where his friend sits, removes his book bag and sits next to Marlo as he scoots over to the window on the bus next to his friend. Harvey, do you have any new comics? Marlo, I have the new Spider-Man. It's sick. I feel like I'm not like I did this wrong. I have the new Spider-Man. It's sick. Harvey. Really, I heard about it. Let me check it out. Marlo. I didn't bring it. My dad said I couldn't because he thinks someone would steal it. Harvey. So you don't really have it, Marlo. I do have it. It just belongs to Calvin. Harvey. So it's your brother's. Marlo, yeah. And I'm still working on that part. So it's a little jacked up because I added dialogue to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love the kids speak because I think it's very hard to write children. It's very hard to write children. And I think you're doing a great job of like diving into what it's like to be in these boys' mind and that you know, the idea of like wanting to seem like bigger or better or cooler than you actually
Yeah.
are. And I think you sort of wrote that flawlessly. You know, they're not going to come out and say it, and that's what like subtext is all about, right? And the other kid, you know, is pulling it out of him little by little. I think that's good. I think it's funny. I think your character is someone who wishes they were, you know, somewhere else, at another place in their lives. And so I think it matches. I think as much as possible, if you can find opportunities for Harvey to like use escapism as a kid, I think it's great. And I think it'll eventually escalate to the point where there's like a switch being made.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So basically, so it doesn't look like this, but like little by little, like there's opportunities for Harvey to feel like he's more powerful the more he pretends. That's the kind of like escalating conflict that I think will build your story up. Does that make sense?
I think so.
If it doesn't, let me know.
I just okay. So it's this scene, and then it's the one that I was telling you about earlier with him like running to the friend after he turns into an adult, and then of course the scene where he gets the candy from the shop owner, and I feel like I got that one kind of
candy.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I got that one where it kind of makes sense, and like maybe I can incorporate this comic book like type of superhero type of thing into the pilot. So it is that type of escapism to some degree. Like I could be a superhero or kind of him trying to take on this different persona. And I don't know, I'm just brainstorming while I'm on here.
I
don't know.
I could see that working. I would just say the simplest thing now is like before sort of layering on elements that are gonna give it like a nice sheen or whatever. Just really solidify what the beginning, middle, and end is. And then as you're writing your dialogue, like keep in mind, you know, what he's dealing with, what he's grappling with. And he's grappling with like not feeling like he has power in his life, which is like a grown-up problem, it's a kid problem. Okay, thanks, Lana. This is a problem across the board. And then if there's like another element you want to bring in,
okay,
I would layer that in.
Okay.
Simi, I think you're the only one left.
Okay. Where is my script? Okay. Okay. So from what Chelsea said, I'm doing like my rewrite. They drive in the gloomy weather. Oh, sorry. Interior vehicle dawn. They drive in a gloomy weather. A storm chases them. Oyinda and Kayan sit side by side in silence. Oyinda starts to say something, but the driver cuts her off by turning on the radio. An inappropriate song plays. Turn it off, please, Oyinda. He does as told. She takes a deep breath, turns to Kayan. Oyinda, baby. Kayan ignores her and continues staring out the window. Oyinda, Kayan, I'm not upset with you, but why didn't you answer any of my calls? No response. Excuse me. Well, at least we're finally on our way. Kayan, where? Oyinda, haven't you been paying attention to the news reports? The Medina's takeoff is today, and I was able to secure us passage. Kyan, but why are we leaving? They said it'd be fine if we want to stay on Earth, and I want to stay here with my friends. Oyinda tries to interject. No, you said we didn't have to leave again. Not after last time. I want to stay here. There's still so much I have to do. Oyinda, but this is different. And my friends who know more than me, who I trust with my life, both of our lives, said if you can leave, run. Kyan, I don't want to. Don't you see the weather today is not a good day to travel? Excuse me. The driver rolls down his window. Oyinda, Allah, I hope you guide us towards safer passages. I hope you grant your daughter patience, consistency, work, righteousness, and understanding, for the rewards are greater than what we know here on earth. Rid her of the devious traits her father inherited in her. Kyan had to say something. Oyinda, like you have protected me, continue to protect my daughter, even when I'm not there. Lead her from the depths of darkness into the light. Kyan, he's not even here. He's gone. You made him leave. Oyinda, Kyan, let me finish. And that's not what happened. Kyan, I know enough. Look at us now, going on a stupid spaceship. I know I could build one myself, both of them. I have first honors in space engineering, Oyinda, but you've done nothing with it. Oh, sorry, but what have you done with it? Nothing. Kyan, leave me alone. The car stops. Driver, we're here. The end.
That's really good.
Oh, thank
That's really good. Can you tell me about the changes you made?
So I thought most of the changes were really to Oyinda's dialogue. And I think making what I also when I go back again, I think, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's just hurts so much to talk.
Oh no.
I think I'm gonna try to make her, especially when she's praying, her dialogue a bit more poetic and cryptic in that way, where it's like you feel it first before you really understand what she's saying. And then I think with Kyan, I still like the way her dialogue is going because it feels like it's a different energy than Oyinda's. And that's because they're just not on the same page. So yeah.
I think it's great. I'm not gonna have you talk anymore. I think you didn't have to change the whole scene, like just changing a few things made a huge difference. And it's because your character's speaking more with subtext. She's less on the nose about what she's saying. And it's almost prophetic what she's saying, which I think is very helpful. It sets a very eerie tone for your show, which helps the tone of your show. And I think whenever you have an opportunity, and this goes for literally everyone, whenever you have an opportunity to have two characters who are talking and they're having two completely different conversations, you've like ventured over to very sophisticated screenwriting. Most people talk to communicate their point of view as opposed to like talk to problem solve. So most people are saying the thing that they want to say. And so oftentimes human beings are having two different conversations when they're talking to each other. And whenever you see that reflected in a screenplay, that means you're reflecting the world we live in, and that's ideal. So keep going in that direction. People who miss each other in conversations really, really help the dialogue to feel authentic. Yeah, so that's all I have for tonight. I know we ran over. My apologies for being so late, but thank you for sticking in there. You guys all write wonderful dialogue, so just keep going, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Oh, and if you have any questions, let me know. You can always send me a message.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.